We have just returned home from a 12-day cruise on the Norwegian Pearl.
Yes, today we are going to sit down and we are going to provide you with our pros and cons of what we thought while we were on this ship while we are in Europe. So stay tuned.
Well, in case you're new to us and our channel, we are Jill and Jerry, the Cruising Canucks. We have been on over 50 cruises, and we've cruised with Norwegian around a half a dozen times at this point.
We have, and we've always had good experiences with Norwegian, so we didn't expect anything different this time while we were in Europe. This was a very unique itinerary in Europe, and one of the big driving factors for us booking the cruise in the first place. We had never been on the Pearl, and we paid for this entire cruise on our own, so nothing we say here is obligated to anybody other than you, so we can help you decide whether or not you want to cruise on the Pearl. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go through our pros and cons, and just to make it interesting, we did not compare notes before this video.
We have no idea. I have no idea what's going to come out of his mouth, which is kind of scary.
It's always good stuff. At least I think so. So we'll get down to that, and we'll go back and forth, and we will, who knows, some of my cons might be your pros.
That's
that
quite
happens.
possible.
But first off, a little bit about the Norwegian Pearl. It was constructed, I believe, and let me just check here, 2005 is when the ship came out, so it is 20 years old from the time we cruised on it. And it was last refurbished, I believe, in 2021.
Okay.
There is rumors that it's going back in late in 2025. We're not sure if that's for a mechanical review or whether there's going to be any refurbishments.
Oh.
Haven't certain, but as far as that goes, like a lot of cruise ships that are well kept, this one really didn't show our age. I did not once think that this is an older ship, other than the fact that it's very classic, but we'll get into that in just a little bit. So that's a little bit on the Norwegian Pearl. We did get on this ship in Southampton in the UK.
Yes.
And we toured all the way around Europe. We ended up in Rome. So
yes. So I mean, sort of jumping the gun a little bit. That was one of the major reasons why we picked this cruise. Was the itinerary reached out to us. We wanted to see as much of Europe as we possibly could in one trip. We were traveling with friends who had never been to that part of the world before, and so we wanted to give them as much of a taste of Northern Europe and the Mediterranean as we possibly could.
Yep, for sure. And I think instead of just doing all cons and all pros at the same time to avoid getting too airy and too negative, we'll just kind of bounce back and forth. We'll give a pro and then we'll give a con, and we'll just kind of go and give you the whole layout of what we experienced over those 12 days.
All right.
So do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
I can go first. The first pro that I have was sort of an unexpected pro for me. We have cruised on this style of cruise ship, but not this exact ship before. And so I was expecting to know what the cabin looked like, and I was very surprised in that our cabin had been recently renovated and had ample storage. It was beautifully modern with the decor and thought out space, and I was very impressed. We had an inside cabin, but I was really impressed with the storage and the amount of space that we had and the looks and aesthetics of our cabin.
Yeah, I would have to agree, and that was one of my pros, actually, was the cabin being so nice. And
there you go.
If you didn't see what our cabin was like in our vlog series, you can go back and watch that, but we'll also be doing a video specifically about this cabin and giving you a tour of it.
Okay.
But yeah, it was an interior cabin, a little bit forward on the ship, kind of halfway down. We weren't sure what kind of weather we were going to get. The weather was actually fantastic. It didn't really matter, but the cabin was a pleasant surprise. Our experience on Norwegian in the past was we felt the inside cabins were a little small.
Yes.
This one did not feel that way. Whatever they've done, it was actually quite fine for 12 days at sea.
Yeah, we definitely had more walking around room in this interior cabin than we have in other interior cabins with Norwegian.
So there you go. That was the number one pro.
That was my number one pro.
Okay, so I will give you my number one pro, and of course, it may have to do with my belly.
Oh.
I love myself a main dining room, and this one did not disappoint. I love the main dining room. We went there, as many nights as we could, because we had a couple specialty dining we did as well. And I would have to say that the menu options, for someone like me that doesn't like just seafood and steak every night on a cruise, I had many options. Sometimes I couldn't decide which ones. Sometimes I had multiple. And I also felt that the food itself came out hot. It was tasty. I don't think I walked away from the main dining room a single night going, I really did like my dinner tonight. I really enjoyed that experience. And so for me, the main dining room was a big plus, and that was the same experience. We were on Norwegian Epic several years ago, and I felt the same way, that the main dining room selections and options and quality of food was really good. So I could have ate at that main dining room all 12 nights, and I would not have been disappointed.
So here we go. I'm going to start and say that that was a bit of a con for me. Overall, I enjoyed the main dining room. Don't get me wrong. But I will say, and this is something that a family member pointed out to me, is they've changed the menu options in their main dining room since we've cruised with them in the past, and they've taken off some sort of classic menu items that I really appreciate, such as salmon. There was, on a 12-day journey, there was never salmon in the main dining room once that we saw. And so that was a disappointment, because for me, that's generally a go-to meal. And so that's no longer on their menu in their main dining room, where it used to always be on every other cruise. So that was a little bit of a negative. And I did feel like there wasn't as large of a selection on their dining room menu as some other cruise lines. There was a lot of repeats, but not the variety that I could say that I've appreciate on other cruise lines like Princess, that gives you, I think, more options than what I felt I had on the Pearl.
Well, there was no salmon on the menu every night. There was also no meatloaf on the menu every night. So it depends on what your needs are or your likes. But
don't get me wrong, I wouldn't say the main dining room was a con, but I will say there was a few things that sort of gave me negative things. And so I was very appreciative that we didn't have to eat there all 12 nights like Mr. Canuck would have liked. I thoroughly enjoyed the specialty restaurants, and we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, for sure. And and the menu items, they did have a lot of things repeat every night on the regular items, and there was a few new ones every day. So if you didn't like the regular stuff, I guess I could kind of see that, but I liked a lot of the regular stuff that popped up every night. I could pick and choose. If there wasn't anything I liked on the new part of the menu, I just went back to an old favorite. There you go. But anyways, classic main dining room cruising. That's what it's all about for me, so that's why I loved the main dining room. Okay, let's hear your first con.
You like boring things.
I love steady, predictable things.
All right, my first con is kind of a nitpicky one, but it's one that sort of sticks out in my head every time I go on Norwegian. To give a little reference, we cruise a lot on Princess and Holland America, and one thing that Norwegian does differently is towels on the Lido deck. They police your towels. You have to stand in a line and sign out your pool towels and give your room number, and then take however many towels you request. And then you have to stand back in that line again when you're done on the pool deck to return your towels. And sometimes there's issues with that. They write down the wrong cabin number. You get a fee charged on your bill. It's happened to us. I really think it's ridiculous. I've spent thousands and thousands of dollars to go on a cruise ship. I don't want to steal your thin, cheap $20 towel. I'm not going to do it. So, it feels a little petty to me. And also it kind of, you're standing in a line for no reason, in my opinion. I like to have towels at my access that I can take 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 if I want, use them, and put them in the dirty laundry bin when I'm done.
I actually didn't have that as a con, but I didn't have it as a pro for sure. So I missed that one, but I would have to agree that the towel police thing bothers me this day and age on cruising. We're not going to take the towels and start throwing them overboard or stuffing them in our luggage. We got towels when we come home we can use all on our own. So exactly. But,
seems petty.
Yeah, but for sure. So yeah, that's an interesting con. Want to hear my first one?
Sure. What's your first con?
My first con was, and this might sound unbelievable, like I'm exaggerating, but I'm not, karaoke every single night for hours, on some special nights, maybe 5 or 6 hours, always in the Bliss Lounge, after the ship, taking up an entire lounge every single night of the 12 days. There was never anything there other than karaoke for the entire cruise, at least in the evening hours. And I kind of felt like I had a whole venue removed, because we're not karaoke people. We don't have voices. We like listening to the other professional singers around the ship.
We like to sing, but we don't want to torture anybody else with that. So that's funny, because I actually have that as one of my big cons too, is the Bliss Lounge was used for karaoke all night, every night. On past sailings with Norwegian, we have loved the Bliss Lounge, that there's often dancing opportunities there because they have a beautiful dance floor, and it's one of the main dance floors on the whole ship. But we could never dance on there because there was never a live band there that you could go and dance. It was karaoke every night. So I agree with Jerry. Huge negative in my opinion. But if you love karaoke, hey, this is the ship for you, because you can sing till your heart's content.
Every night.
Every night. And it was never crowded. Any time that we poked our head in, there was only a few people in there, so you could just sing to your heart's content all night.
Okay, so the next pro is up to you.
All right, so my next pro would be the Spinnaker Lounge. That was at the very forward of the ship, at one of the highest levels on the ship, and it had beautiful views throughout the day that you could see. With a nice bar in there, they used that space, I thought, in my opinion, very well. That during the day there were things like meet the officer events there. There was some sort of games that you could participate in there, and then in the evening they often had some live music there, or they had themed DJ music like a ABBA night one night, stuff like that. And so there was a dance floor there, and that was the one spot we could dance, so that was a huge bonus for me.
Yeah, I had that as a pro as well. I spun that into a little bit of a different feel. I just basically said it has that small classic cruise ship feel to it, the entire ship. And part of that to me is the lounge life, where you can spend time in a lounge, listening, dancing, taking in the views in this situation at the Spinnaker Lounge. So I definitely had that as a pro. And like I said, that the whole ship had a really comfortable, what I think of when I think of cruising, when I think of the modern day Love Boat experience, then this ship kind of had that feel. It wasn't the over the top amusement park at sea. It was a cruise ship, and you were enjoying the classic cruising style.
Right. And going specifically to the Spinnaker Lounge, one thing I would say was that I thought it had ample seating for the size of the cruise ship, whereas on the newer cruise ships, we're finding that's not the case. But you were able to get a seat every single time that we went there. There wasn't an issue to get a seat. The busiest night that we saw it was their ABBA night, and we probably took the last table, and we saw people struggling after us to get a seat. But overall, 95% of the time, it felt like, you could walk in and you had your choice of seats, and it was a very nice, sizable lounge for the amount of people on board.
For sure. And I think it was, in a way, I felt like it was doing double duty, because the Bliss Lounge was not available, that they had to put everything up there. So
it was busy.
Yeah, it would have been nice for some of the more, better attended events to be in the Bliss Lounge. I think it might hold a few more people. It's close.
Yeah,
so they're pretty
it feels
close.
like it would.
But the Spinnaker Lounge was definitely a big plus. For sure. This is Canucks, as I say, for sure, too much.
I think I've counted 5 times in this video so much. For sure, at this point. We'll see how many times he edits it out and makes it onto the video with you guys.
For sure. And if you're not going to cruise the Norwegian Pearl and you're just watching this for something to do,
count how many.
You can have a drink every time I say for sure.
Yes, we actually had a member say that it could be a good drinking game, that every time Jerry says for sure, take a drink.
Exactly. I won't say it. I want to, but I'm trying not to. Anyways, my next pro, ironically, is about drinking. Speaking of drinking games. And that is the drinks package, the bars that are available on board, and the overall way that their package is managed compared to the cruise lines. There's no limits. You're not having to sign any chits any of the time. The majority of the drinks are included in the package. I don't think we ever had a time saying, is that included in the package or not? It was just like everything was there at our fingertips. And we had the mojito bar we could go to if we wanted a quiet experience. You could have the busier bars that had the bands. I really feel that they do a great job with their drink package and that element of cruising and having a nice, a drink at a lounge or a pub where there's a band playing.
I would agree with you. I had that as one of my pros also, was, you're right. Like, so in comparison, we did our first celebrity cruise in the last year, and we went on with the classic drink package, and every single bar we went to, there wasn't a menu item that covered on their menu that was covered in our drink package, whereas it was the total opposite on Norwegian. Every cocktail that I read in the specific bars that were, themed to that area, whether we were at the mojito bar or the martini bar or the whiskey bar, I could have ordered any of them because it was covered. So that, I really appreciated that. I didn't feel like I was being nickeled and dimed when it came to the drink package. The one con about their drink package that would get me is that they don't include bottled or canned water in it. You can just get tapped water, ask for tap water, but you can't get a bottle of water to take back to your room at night at the end of the evening when you've been having a few beverages and you might need that. Specialty coffee is not included also. So Princess, Holland America, even Celebrity specialty coffee is included in your drink package. So there is pros and cons with it.
Yeah, I forgot all about the no water thing. That's a big miss, I think. A big opportunity that, like, how hard it is to provide water. That, yeah, you could get glasses of ice water and carry them around and dump them into other containers like we did.
Yeah.
But just a bottle of water, it's odd that we can get unlimited alcoholic drinks, but you can't get a bottle of water.
Yeah, so you can pre-order water in your cabin when you go on a Norwegian cruise, which is what we did. It's not cheap, it's costly, but we did do that so that we had water in our cabin and also water that we could take ashore with us, and we weren't dealing with having the hassle of trying to find fresh water.
There you go. So, maybe on to your con next.
All right, my con, well, actually, that was one of my cons. I'm just looking at it. So the water that I talked about was a con. The other con that I'll move on to is their internet packages and their internet plans. It is like going back to when internet just first became a thing in the 90s, where it is dial-up, and every minute that you're on it subtracts on your plan, and so it's very limited the amount of minutes you're allowed per cruise, plus the speed of it was, in my opinion, slower than a lot of the other cruise lines. They're very archaic, in my opinion, with internet.
No, my understanding is they have flipped over to the Starlink, but that hasn't changed how they're doing their plans, at least on the Norwegian Pearl. It may be different. I've heard different ideas with different packages on the newer ships for Norwegian, but specific to this ship, that was our experience, is you had to do the old school counting down how many minutes and trying to turn off your device and turn it back on.
Make sure you log in and log out every single time, which, in my opinion, wasted time and minutes trying to do that. So their internet is probably the worst that we've cruised at sea in years.
Yeah, we had to get what we decided to do, we knew this ahead of time, so we purchased an eSIM card to go into our phone and have pretty well unlimited data all around Europe as long as we were land. Since it was port intensive, that wasn't a problem for us. But yeah, when we were on the ship out at sea, it was definitely a big gap for internet coverage, and just the overall use of it wasn't user friendly. That was a good one. I didn't have that one as a con.
Yeah, it's definitely not a cruise line where you could sort of do some work while on vacation.
Look at you bringing up the tech issues.
Yeah, who knew?
Okay, my next con that I had it's probably going to be a biggie, but it was what I felt was substandard entertainment for a cruise line of this size in this era. I really felt that there was a problem there, and I kind of feel like maybe there was a little bit of problems with transparency, because we felt there was something going on. We were on the ship, and also at the very last minute, the show was canceled that we thought was going to be a welcome aboard show. We're not sure why, so they threw in another entertainer, and I just feel that in this era that if the passengers know what's going on, they can be a lot more forgiving. So if we knew there was an issue where people were sick or entertainers hadn't shown up on time or something was causing them to have the shows appear like they did, which was less than standard, then we would have been a little more forgiving, say, they had some issues and we understand that happens, right? But to have people stand on a stage and kind of sing songs and maybe change their outfit, but no background, no nothing, like no effort is what it felt like for the production side of things.
Yeah.
Was sad because the performers were really good.
Yes.
But the production was really bad.
Yes, I have that down as a con too. And I think the reason why we both sort of picked up on that is in the past, we have walked out of a Norwegian theater and said it's been amazing entertainment, and the production shows were awesome and on par with many other cruise lines like Princess. But we didn't feel that on this experience. It felt like there was a huge budget crunch.
Something, yeah.
Because like Jerry said, there was quite a few shows where there was just people standing there with a black background, no set, no anything, not even a curtain. So yeah, that was a little lacking. I will say that the live music entertainment that we saw around the ship was a pro for me. I really enjoyed the live musicians that they had at different venues. They had a house band that were phenomenal. They had a couple duets that were really good. That sort of entertainment was great in the lounges and the bars area, but the main production shows were lacking.
For sure. Okay, on to the next pro.
All right.
But not before Bruno decided he needed to be part of the show. He only had one big con for this whole cruise experience, and that was he couldn't come with us. So,
There you go.
so that's Bruno's feedback, but he's going to sit in for the rest of the show here. And on to the next pro. I think it's my turn, and it's a pretty quick one because we kind of covered it already, but the itinerary was a big pro. That this is why we chose this ship. It was going to so many different spots in Europe that a lot of other cruise lines weren't going to in a similar itinerary, or they didn't have it at all. And I find that with Norwegian, they do have some very unique itineraries.
Yeah.
So on the con side, I know that they've had some issues with cancellations of some of those, more exotic itineraries. But in this situation, I would say over half of the reason I chose this cruise was the itinerary.
For sure. Said it. He's
Now
got
you're
me
saying-
saying it now, guys.
Okay, so what is your next pro?
My next pro would be the pub. The Oceans pub that is on board. It is 24 hours. It is available for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks in between. And I've always enjoyed the pub. And so that was a huge plus for me. I love being able to sit down there and be able to eat at whatever time is convenient for us. So it was great for a sit-down breakfast before we went ashore for the day, a late lunch if we were at shore later and we wanted to eat at 2 or 3 o'clock. And it's a nice option instead of having to go to the buffet.
There you go, and there we go again, because what you had as a pro, I had it kind of as a con. That yes, I like the whole concept of the pub. I like the 24 hours. I like all the different, breakfast, lunch, dinner available there, as well as snacks in the evening. I like all that, but I had a little bit of a con with the pub, and it's something I've seen evolving with Norwegian over the years that we've sailed with them. Is the menu feels like it's getting pulled back a little bit more each time, a little less variety, quality. I also find that the rules around the pub are becoming more strict. I find it's kind of odd. You're not able to go to the pub and pick up something, a nacho or something, and carry it to somewhere else. We tried doing that on another ship, and they said, no, you can't leave with the food. You have to stay here. I've never heard of that on a cruise ship where you couldn't get food and just take it somewhere if you wanted to. And also just kind of the options on the menu seem to be a little less. Like the food we did have was good, but it definitely wasn't as good as it was the first time we were on Norwegian.
Yeah, the selection has definitely gotten smaller over the years.
My understanding is on the newer ships, they've renamed the pub in some of the slightly newer
Called
ships.
the local?
And then on some, I think they may have removed the concept completely.
Okay.
We have met on the new ones to find out, but that's kind of what we're seeing from other people. But yeah, the pub was, I love the concept. I just feel like they've let it slide a little bit, which is kind of how I felt about the entertainment. They've let it slide a little bit on this. I'm not sure if this is an older ship thing when Norwegian's got their focus on the new ships or why, but yeah. Those are two things that used to be way better that were a little bit different this time around. Okay, your next pro.
I just gave a pro.
Oh, did you? I wasn't listening.
Shocking. Shocking.
I guess we're on to your next con then.
But you didn't give a pro.
Oh, I did. I thought I gave itinerary as a pro. This is what it's like in our regular
We were
life.
talking about drink. We just talked about the pub.
Okay. Oh, so my next pro, let's just roll with it. I had the better new cabins, which we already covered. And the one that I think I'm stealing of yours is the specialty dining on board Norwegian. We ate at several different specialty dining. I would say that they were all really good. There's a lot of times I go to specialty dining, I'm like, was that really worth the money? I didn't have that feeling as much on Norwegian. Absolutely loved, we returned to the Brazilian steakhouse. Moderno, I love that experience. We had an iffy experience on another Norwegian ship. We were worried that was slipping, but not the case. It was phenomenal. And the French restaurant, the tap, we kind of did most of them.
We did La Bistro, which is a
Yep.
French-inspired restaurant. We did Tapanaki, and we did, like Jerry said, the Moderno, which is a Brazilian restaurant.
Yep.
And I agree, that was one of my pros. The service in there is phenomenal. The menu options were great. Oh, I forgot to mention we also did the new
Lotus Garden.
Lotus Garden restaurant. That was a new change to us, but the menu items there were phenomenal. And so yes, we had great specialty dining food and events. I would say that when you go to the specialty dining, it's more of an event.
But one of my cons is what you just mentioned, actually. As much as specialty dining was good, the con that they have changed the Lotus Garden from being freely available in your fare to now being a specialty dining kind of is a little bit of a loss for me. They did improve. They've upgraded the menu to kind of meet the new standards of being a specialty dining restaurant.
They did.
But I really love some of the stuff on the older restaurant menu, so I was kind of missing the Kung Pao chicken and some of my staples that I like. So it's a little more exotic and
It's definitely
upscale.
changed
Yeah.
than what it used to be, for for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, for sure. But how many? What's that? 3 drinks right there all at once. Oh, you're picking on me. Where we are, I lost my spot. I think we're already.
We're going to go to one of my cons next. One of my cons, and I can sort of give you a con and a pro all in one here, but one of my cons, when you're traveling, we left our house for this 12-day cruising. It was actually 3 weeks that we were gone for our home. So we travel with a lot of luggage. And so one of my cons was there's no laundry room, self-service laundry room on Norwegian. I enjoy, or I appreciate that Princess offers that on their cruises. Carnival offers it. So there's no self-service laundry room. Canard offers it. I can go on and on with other ones that do. But the pro on the con side of that is that they do offer an ironing board and iron service. You just have to call front desk and ask for an iron and they will deliver one. And they said you can have it in your room up to 3 hours at a time. So what I did was on our sea day, I asked for an iron. It came to our room and I ironed 4 or 5 items that had been wrinkled because they'd been in a suitcase for a week and a half by the time we had gone on the cruise ship.
For sure. That's very helpful. When you were off at the spa one day for a couple hours, I ordered an ironing board. I touched up my...
Sure he did.
And it was just perfect to be able to do that. Yes.
Yeah. Funny.
Oh, where were we? Let's go
Your
to a con. A con for me would be... This is going to sound like a strange one, but we spent an hour or two out of our vacation turning on our television and thought they had a special channel talking all about the ports, where you would be docking, how we get into the town that we're visiting. We pulled out our notepads, we got our pens ready. We thought we're going to make notes so we know exactly, because sometimes in Europe you go to different parts of the ports and it takes different ways to get to the city. We were all prepared. I would say that probably 80 to 90% of the information they gave us was totally inaccurate.
Totally wrong.
It was totally not. They did not go to the port they said they're going to. It was a different spot in the same port. The shuttle arrangements were different than what they said.
There were ones where it said there was a free shuttle available when we ended up having to pay for it, and there were some where it said there was a paid shuttle and it ended up being free. So yeah, the information was totally wrong almost every single day. I think there was only 1 or 2 days that the information that I wrote down in the little notebook was actually what happened.
Yeah, and this comes off of the opposite experience.
Weird.
Like, we were on a Princess cruise in the Mediterranean for 22 days, and it was fantastic. They gave very good detailed instructions of what was going on. We were docking, what it would cost, what there was to do. This was the opposite experience. We were rolling blind every time we moved into port to figure out, we're not where we thought we were going to be. How are we going to get there now? So when you watch our vlogs, there's probably a lot of us saying, we think we're supposed to see this here, but we have to figure this out now, because we were trying to figure it out on the fly.
It was confusing.
Yeah, for sure. So, do you have another con or a pro? I think we're pro for you.
Okay. So the pro for me would be the pool temperature management on this cruise. And that sounds like a funny one, I'm sure. But on the main Lido deck, there were 2 relatively spacious pools side by side, pretty much. They had hot tubs all around there. But what I really appreciated, we started this cruise in Southampton. It was around 20 degrees Celsius. And as we went to the Mediterranean, obviously it got a little bit warmer. What I found was that they had one pool that they kept the temperature very warm, sort of like a bathtub water temperature. And you could go in there and hang out in that pool just like you would in a hot tub, and have plenty of space, and everybody enjoyed the pools. And so I was really appreciative that and the temperatures changed throughout the voyage. It would be hot when it needed to be, and then as we got into the Mediterranean, they turned down the temperatures of the pool. And so I thought that was very well done and thought out on their process.
There you go. I have no comment to that. I enjoyed the hot tubs a little more in the pools, but it was different. The only thing is, when it got really hot, you had to make sure you went to the right pool, because it was, you were expecting to cool down and you couldn't get that from one of the pools.
Yeah, you had to touch the temperature and decide which pool you wanted to get into, because they definitely had them at different temperatures.
Okay, my next pro is the cruise director. I felt that the cruise director was completely appropriate for what I expect on a cruise ship. Not screaming into the microphone all the time, not over the top. It wasn't kind of like, go, go, go. It was information provided as we needed. They still did a little bit of reading from the daily program in the morning to tell you what's going on, which I really think is kind of, this day and age we don't need it with our phone apps and all the things that we have on board. But still, I felt overall the cruise director was appropriate, which is, there's a sweet spot in there between being invisible and being over the top, and I felt they hit the right vibe for me.
I agree.
Go. So we're on to one of your cons then.
One of my cons. I'm just starting to see if I have anything less. Oh, I have no more cons. I ran through my whole
We're getting
list.
close to the end then. Actually, I only have one more thing. I'm through all my pros, and I only have one con left.
Okay.
And my last con that I had left is I do feel like they are overdoing it, which is funny because I just talked about the cruise director being appropriate, that the atrium is turning too much into the focus of everything going on, which is something we're seeing on a lot of cruise lines, and it makes it to the point where you can't get in there. We had a tough time even getting a seat in the atrium because it was go, go, go. It was one event after another. People would spend the whole night there. There was band after trivia after. It was crazy in the atrium to the point where we couldn't get a seat unless we went there and strategically planted ourselves and waited for hours for the event we wanted to see in the future.
No, and that's true. But in saying that, we felt like the Spinnaker Lounge and
Yes.
the Martini Bar gave us other options, so it wasn't a detriment because there were other spaces that you could go to. You know, I think back to the Sun Princess where we felt the same thing was going on, but there really wasn't large enough venues to move elsewhere in the Sun Princess, but there was on the ship. So it was a con to a little bit, but at least there were other options out for us.
Yeah, for sure. There was maybe because it was so busy there, it was more appropriate elsewhere on the ship as far as crowds, and it didn't seem as busy because everybody was there. But yeah, I'm moving towards any atrium that has a big screen TV. I'm not liking anymore because I feel that everything starts happening there because of this display. That the classic ships without the big screen TV in the atrium feels like it's a little more. I know, my vibe, I guess so. And that's all I had for pros and cons. Did you have any more pros?
I have one little more pro that I liked. I've been finding on the last little while of cruise ships that most of the theaters, they no longer do service in the theaters. When we started cruising and you look at the older style cruise ships, all of the theater seating included a little cocktail table and a little lounge, and you would go in there and the waiter would take your order and prior to the show starting, and it just sort of kept the evening entertainment going on that night. And what I was surprised, because we're not used to it anymore, but they had waiters in there taking orders every single night leading up to the show. They even gave a 5-minute warning saying if you want to order a drink with the waiter, order one now because the show will start in 5 minutes, that sort of thing. So I thought that was nice that they haven't scaled back on that like so many other cruise lines have done. So I appreciated that.
And we ended up sitting for the second half of the cruise. First half we were at the bottom. The second half we decided to sit up on a balcony with a different view. And even up in the balcony where there wasn't as many people, there was still a waiter coming around and taking orders, which was fantastic. Yeah. So yeah, definitely a big plus that there was no lacking for service around the ship. I know it didn't matter what bar you went to, where you sat down, there was always people.
True. There was lots of waiters and waitresses, and the staff were amazing. That would definitely be a pro for sure. We had a wonderful staff everywhere we went, from the dining room to the pool deck to the lounges.
Yep. So that is our pros and cons of the Norwegian Pearl. I guess the big question everybody wants to know, would you sail on the Pearl again?
Yes, I would. I thought we had a fabulous time on the Pearl. I overall thought everything was really well. Our cons were all sort of nitpicky ones, but not major ones. I would say, no, I'm not cruising with them again.
Yeah.
Definitely would do it again.
Yeah, I would cruise on it again. And the things that I thought were pros were the important things about cruising. And because of that, I think that I definitely would cruise on the Pearl again because, yeah, what's important to me is what they did really well. And the other things were all very small. So anyways, thanks for watching our review of the Norwegian Pearl. If you didn't see it yet, go back and check our vlog series. We have 12 different vlogs plus in London before and Rome after you can watch of our time in Europe. And we'll be doing that cabin tour as well in a little while. So good luck if you're going on the Norwegian Pearl. I'm sure you'll have a wonderful time. Take care.
Bye for now.
See you later.